Hello again.
Hey, hello. Not again, for the first time.
Not again for you, but again for me. Feels different in the afternoon rather than the first thing in the morning. Jimmy, thank you so much for joining us today. I mean, obviously, Jimmy needs no introduction, founder of Wikipedia, and also the author of a new book, The 7 Rules of Trust, which is being translated into 20 languages. And in this book, Jimmy uses his experience of 25 years of Wikipedia to, in a sense, reverse engineer or decipher what the ingredients of trust are. And one of the things that's interesting about this book is you're reminded how different the world is in just 25 years. 25 years ago, when you founded Wikipedia, you would never think of stepping into a car with a total stranger. You wouldn't give your credit card, to a site to buy something, and God forbid, you would not hand over your home to a perfect stranger. And yet now, Amazon, Uber, Airbnb are part of everyday life. So, the world has really changed, and this book kind of tries to distill what it is that is the basis of trust in human relationships, in corporate relationships, and in society. But the book actually begins with a very personal tale that led to the philosophy behind Wikipedia. Would you mind telling us about this sort of difficult personal decision regarding your daughter that was in a way the inspiration for Wikipedia?
Yeah, so this was back in 2000, December. And Kira, my daughter, was born on December 26th. And at the time, just to set the context, I had been working on a project called Newpedia, the same vision of free encyclopedia for everyone, written by volunteers. But I didn't really know how to build an online community, and I wasn't sure what I was doing and so forth, and it wasn't working. It really wasn't working. Progress was very slow. And one of my employees showed me Wiki just before the Christmas break. And Wiki just means it's a type of software. It's a website anyone can edit. That's the basic idea of a wiki. And I started to think about, maybe we could use this wiki because the Newpedia system wasn't working. It was too hard, too slow. Then my daughter was born, and when she was born, she had meconium aspiration syndrome, which is a problem with the lungs when she's born. And I'd never even heard of this. It wasn't even on my radar as a thing, and I had to make a decision, very quickly as to what to do. And so they said, we've got like the world expert on this disease, and he's at UC San Diego. We lived in San Diego at the time. And so he came and, he explained, okay, we're doing a clinical trial. I mean, this is the scary part. If you say yes, I'll go back to my office and I'll pull an envelope, and you have a 50-50 chance of whether you get the new treatment or the traditional treatment. The traditional treatment is just try and keep the baby alive to sort of suffer through it, and there's usually lung damage and long-term problems. And his new treatment was to basically stop the baby's breathing and use this new fluid, protein-based fluid that he had invented, to basically pour it in the baby and rinse out the baby's lungs 4 times. I mean, terrifying. And we had to make a decision, like right then and there. Is this guy a lunatic? Is he a sensible person? Like, what is it like? And so I asked him a couple of questions. I asked, like, okay, she's on this machine and there's this number. What does that number mean? And he just got my personality. So empathy, one of the key things I talk about. And he realized I wasn't the type of person to sort of talk in vagueness to. I needed to know a little bit more about the science and what he was doing. And he didn't tell me this. It turns out he invented the machine. So that also raised some trust. And so we had made the decision to go with the treatment. And she was lucky. She got the experimental treatment, and she's completely fine now. And that's great. As a part of all that whole situation, I sort of rushed home during part of it to get on the internet. Didn't really have internet on our phones back then. And I searched for meconium aspiration syndrome. There was nothing good on the internet. I found some academic journal articles. I found some possibly crazy blog posts and things like that. And it sort of really doubled for me, like, the world does need this. It needs an encyclopedia. Also, life's too short to not be bold and not to try something. So when I got back to work on January 15th, I'm like, you know what? We're just going to do it. I downloaded some wiki software, put up the wiki. I typed "Hello World," the first words of Wikipedia, and we got started. And that was kind of the early days. And so, it's that moment, which I didn't talk about for years, but it really did sort of, it brought home to me, like, okay, this could be really important, and people really do need clear, high-quality information that's accessible, written to a level of an educated adult and so forth.
So in your book, you write that when you founded Wikipedia, and I quote, "This was a time when the internet still felt young and with endless possibilities. There was less cynicism. People were open to new ideas, even ideas that sounded a little, nutty. Volunteers showed up to give Wikipedia a try, and in just a few months we had hundreds of active volunteers, and articles were pouring onto the internet by the dozens every day." That sounds like an alternate universe to the America of 2025. In today's political climate, war on facts, historic distrust, right, of news, and not only, could you still create Wikipedia today?
Well, I think so, yes. But I'm a pathological optimist, and so I always think everything's great. But I use the word pathological to acknowledge I'm not always realistic. That's just how I am. I think everything's going to be fine. That gets shaken from time to time these days. But, I think, there was that moment of great optimism and, all of that. But we also have to remember, even going back before Tim Berners-Lee invented the World Wide Web, there was this giant message board system called Usenet, which was mostly unmoderated and unmoderatable because it was a distributed system on lots of different mainframe computers and so on. And it was unbelievably toxic. It was horrible. I mean, it turns out people don't actually need algorithms to be horrible to each other. We can just do it for free, And there's a lot of reasons. There's a lot of the elements that we have a better understanding of now. Anonymity doesn't always lead to toxicity, but it is a component often. A lot of atomistic interactions, it's like a drive-by trolling, and you're never going to see the person again, and people don't behave. So, there was that moment of great optimism, but you could already see, actually the internet could be a horrible place as well. And so, when I reflect on this, I just it's really hard to think about, okay, what if Wikipedia hadn't started? Could you start it today? Well, gosh, what would the world be like without Wikipedia today? I mean, what would the internet be like? It's become such a part of the infrastructure of how things work, from, searching online. You search because you're going to find something. And when you find something, it's probably Wikipedia. And AI is being trained on Wikipedia and all of that. And so it's hard for me to even imagine a world without Wikipedia now. So
I'm going to go off script here. How many people use Wikipedia in this room more than 10 times a day?
Oh, more than 10 a day. Oh, come on.
More than 5 times a day?
You're slackers. You're all slackers.
Not curious enough, people.
In the book I quote DVF, Diane von Furstenberg, who told me, she says it all the time, actually. She says, "We all use Wikipedia more often than we pee." That was pretty good. I don't think that's 10 times a day, but I mean, if it is, go see a doctor. But,
maybe people aren't drinking enough water is the moral of the story here. Anyway, but it's interesting in what you're talking about, sort of toxicity on the internet and with people you cannot see. That is a theme that you explore in the book, which is it's very easy to be toxic, just sort of in an ether, as opposed to people who are next to you and human beings. And that, I mean, I don't know if you ever thought you would be in agreement with Ben Shapiro, but that sounds remarkably like what Ben was just saying just in the panel before us.
Yeah, I was backstage listening, and I don't know much about Ben Shapiro. I've heard of him, and I just thought, oh, well, what's this guy going to say? And I sort of tune in and start listening. I'm like, oh, yeah, that actually completely makes sense. And in fact, when he suggested doing a sort of non-religious Shabbat and taking Saturday off from social media, I chuckled because because I'm a geek, I've just been redoing my internet at home and a new network and I've got a new router and a new blah, blah, blah. And I said to the children, I'm like, oh, look, I was thinking about maybe I can set a schedule, and I'm thinking maybe we'll do like a family Shabbat, and every Saturday we'll automatically block all social media. And they nearly threw me out the window. Like, it was a very controversial. They're like, what? Saturday is our only day that you're allowed to. Da, da, da. So I'm like, okay, well, just take it easy. Maybe we'll just try one or two things, or an hour on Saturday morning or something. But anyway. I think it's not a bad idea.
These are the same kids, by the way, who just now, behind the scenes, Jimmy was online fixing internet for them back home remotely. Yeah, that's the last time you're going to do that.
It's I am sort of IT support at home. Once my wife was on a call with Sadiq, the mayor of London, and her internet was messing up, and so Jimmy, come and help with the internet. And I'm like, oh, hi, Sadiq, I'm just IT support, So.
So in the book, you talk about several controversies, that have sort of played out on Wikipedia, and that, extreme positions that have been debated and battled on. But one thing I found interesting is you say that often it's not the biggest, most controversial issues, like, I don't know, like abortion or, big ticket, hot ticket issues that get the most off kilter. Because, and this proves your point about community, lots of people pile in, and there's a balancing out. It's the smaller, sort of more obscure topics that become these big issues. What is the most controversial debate that was the most instructive to you and that played out on Wikipedia?
I mean, there's one that I think not many Wikipedians would actually remember, but I remember it very well because it caused me to think about things in a slightly new way. Someone said to me, you've got to go look at this article because there's a massive fight and it's been brewing for a week and people are really getting upset and so on. And it was about a particular breed of dog. And it was a breed of dog that has not been recognized by the American Kennel Association or whatever it's called. But some people are trying to get it recognized as a breed, and some people think it's nonsense and it shouldn't be recognized. And anyway, these people were having a huge fight. And I went in and I'm like, this is really unusual. And what was unusual is as I looked through it, I was like, oh, I don't see anybody I know. I don't see any regular Wikipedians. And, the people who are real regulars at Wikipedia, who are there all the time, they're quite good at conflict resolution and trying to calm people down, talking about policy, talking about, it's not up to Wikipedia to decide this issue, so what you need to do is write fairly about the controversy and so on. And I thought, that it's really interesting because where did these people come from? Turns out they came from, I don't know, I don't remember now. It wouldn't have been Twitter, this was too early on for that, but some dog forum somewhere. And it's like, people don't automatically come to Wikipedia understanding what it is. And we still see this today. Like, it's very common. Somebody will sort of launch an attack on us on Twitter or somewhere, and then all these people rush in, and oftentimes they're just completely confused about what they're doing, and they're completely misguided about how to talk to people and how to sort of think about these issues. And, like the classic kind of example is, I can't believe Wikipedia has an article about this person. We hate this person. Let's get their article deleted. We'll go and start a vote, and we'll all vote and get it deleted. And the way we vote in Wikipedia is we call it a not vote. It's like we don't vote. We have these discussions that look something like a vote, but when when somebody comes to close it, they actually just look and they say, are there policy-based reasons being given and all of that? And so you can come and say, delete, this person's a jerk, and whoever's closing it will go like, that's not a reason. In Wikipedia, there's a lot of jerks, and they're, Adolf Hitler, he was a jerk, and he's listed in Wikipedia, so that's not really how you do it. And so it is like this, there's nothing automatic that happens if you get people to come and work on something. It does take a lot of ideas, a lot of philosophy, a lot of coaching, and people do get it. Actually, people get quite enthusiastic about it because finally it's like, oh, we're not just going to bash each other? Great, actually that sounds a lot more interesting. I think I heard Ben Shapiro talking about the need for, a diversity of opinions and discussions and discourse as opposed to just whacking at each other. So It's very instructive, even though it was about a silly dog breed.
Yeah, exactly. So,
I shouldn't say a silly dog breed, because half of that group...
you're going to get into trouble for that. Clearly Ben Shapiro has made an impression here, but, Wikipedia has often been the target of conservative critics, right-wing influencers, many sort of Republican congresspeople, accusing it of being too liberal, accusing you of being too liberal. How do you respond to that?
Yeah, so, I think broadly, if you, when Elon says that we're Wokepedia and that the site's been hijacked by left-wing activists, this is just not true. I know the Wikipedians, they're mostly super nerdy people, not particularly political and so on and so forth. And so broadly, no. However, my sort of approach to this is to say, okay, anytime we get a criticism, our response shouldn't be just to be defensive and say, no, we're neutral. No. We should say, okay, let's talk about it. Let's help us figure out how do we improve? Where have we got it wrong? What are the issues that we may have? And, some of it can be, the way Elon puts things is always a little dramatic, but when he says things like, Wikipedia just reflects mainstream propaganda, I'm like, that's a really odd pair of words to put together, mainstream propaganda. But if you say, gee, the media broadly may have a left-leaning bias, lots of people think that, therefore Wikipedia would naturally also be susceptible to that, and that's yeah, okay, actually we should grapple with that. We should make sure that we're not doing that, make sure we're getting it right. Then there are other cases where, in the case of really difficult emotional conflict in the wider world, then obviously it's harder for people to be sort of that calm, reflective, neutral Wikipedian because it's really personal. So I think you wouldn't be surprised if you sort of looked very closely at Ukrainian Wikipedia, and probably it's a little bit more negative about Russia than it might have been otherwise. And that's just human. That doesn't mean I think that's okay, and I don't think the Ukrainian Wikipedia shouldn't just go crazy and start bashing Russia everything. But you can understand it, it's human. And so it takes time. When we've had Wikipedia volunteers killed in the war, probably on both sides. I don't know about Russians. But actually, the community tends to do a pretty good job, even under those tough circumstances. But that's where it gets really hard.
We're going to come to some of the questions from the audience, but just quickly turn to AI. You and members of your organization have complained about AI models that are training off the backs of sources, like Wikipedia. And in your case, it's almost like a double whammy because humans are contributing information to Wikipedia, and you have an infrastructure that can handle traffic when there are spikes, as there's huge interest in one topic. But when you have bots crawling, not only are they taking information from those people who have voluntarily, given it, but also it costs you to manage that spike in traffic. Mm-hmm. So, you're having to pay for that. I know you've signed a deal with Google, which now pays you. Are you working on other deals with the big tech?
Yeah, we are. So we've got our enterprise product, which, you can buy a feed from Wikipedia. We actually have the ability to clean it up a bit, so it's sort of more trusted volunteers. The most recent edit might be vandalism, so we give you the most recent edit, that sort of thing we can do. And, part of the argument with them, so everything in Wikipedia is open source, freely licensed. And so, it's not we're in a different position from publishers who also have a lot of copyright concerns. For us, it's really, it's freely licensed, but one of the requirements is attribution. Also, just from an ethical point of view, attribution is really important. We teach teenagers this. It's you use something, you should put a footnote and say where you got your information from. That's important. And the large language models are pretty bad at attribution. But also that traffic spike thing is actually worth just going a little bit deeper into because it is kind of interesting. So the way humans, use Wikipedia and big traffic spikes that we get are typically to very famous articles that are in the news at that moment. So we just put out the list of most read articles in Wikipedia for 2025. I mean, I guess to date, because we don't know what people are going to read in the next few weeks. And number one, Charlie Kirk. So Charlie Kirk would not have been in the top. He would have been, he's a known person and all that, but obviously spike up after his tragic assassination. But that was like millions of people all coming to read the same page, which means we generate the page once, we hold it in memory, and we just fire it out. It doesn't cost us a huge amount. Whereas the AI bots that are crawling Wikipedia are going across the entirety of the site, reading obscure pages, which means we have to go to the database, construct the page, compute what it's going to look like, send it out. So we have to have more servers, we have to have more RAM and memory for caching that stuff. And that costs us a disproportionate amount. And, the thing that's really in terms of fairness, like simple human fairness, like Wikipedia is supported by volunteers. We're a charity. And the average donation, I was just told this the other day, the average donation to Wikipedia is $10.26. So don't quote me on the figures exactly, but $10 and something. So the people who are donating Wikipedia, they're donating because, like people in this room, you see a banner once a year and you're like, oh yeah, Wikipedia. I love Wikipedia. And, the theme of banner that we have found works the best over time is a reciprocity type of message of like, hey, I use Wikipedia all the time. You should probably chip in. And people are like, yeah, I probably should. So then they cough up their $10. And, well, those people aren't donating money. They're donating to support Wikipedia. They're not donating to subsidize OpenAI, costing us a ton of money. Like, that doesn't feel fair, even though it's fine if they want to use the content and all of that. So we're just kind of saying to them, and so far...
Yeah, so what are you doing? I mean, what's the legal action or stopping the crawling?
We're very nice, and we're very relaxed, and we, we're slow and...
Until you get angry.
And kind. Then you better watch out. Like the Incredible Hulk. I don't even know... That was almost a punchline, but anyway... So, Cloudflare's just come out with this product for publishers to block AI crawlers because there's so many of them and there's so many ways they can do it. We aren't using that yet, but it's the sort of thing, whether we do it ourselves or with Cloudflare, I don't know, but, it's the sort of thing that we might consider. We're a little bit funny because we're quite ideological about certain things. So free access to knowledge is really important to us. And so when we started the enterprise product, we started charging for the API, but we have like very generous limits for researchers and nonprofits and open source projects and things like that. And we'll continue that. But we do think, there are these cases where it's like, well, you're really slamming our servers. You should be using the API and you aren't. So at some point, we're going to have to say, really, you have to. Would it go to legal? I don't know. I mean, I feel like our ability of soft power to just shame them is probably pretty powerful, particularly because they're chock full of engineers who love Wikipedia, and I don't think their staff are going to like it if you're like, it just doesn't feel good, stealing from babies or Wikipedia. So
we have to close, but there was actually a question about those who donate. I don't know if we can scroll back down to it, which because you raised it, because you get the banner on, especially now on the 25th anniversary. And it asked, do you know the demographics of those who donate? I think that was the question. Right?
Yeah, it's pretty diverse. I don't personally know. I think. I would say the thing I do know is geographically, the majority of the money comes from the U.S., and I would say per capita more from the U.S., and that's partly because the U.S. has a much stronger culture of giving and donating to philanthropy and so on, whereas a lot of Europeans think the government should pay for it, and that's just a cultural difference. Obviously, the wealth level of a country matters quite a lot. But in terms of age demographics and things like that, not so much. Now, I want to answer this other question because I like it. Why does the Wikimedia Foundation keep asking for donations, even though it's managed by Wikimedia and they have more than enough funding? Well, so the Wikimedia Foundation is a nonprofit, and we don't have more than enough funding. We are doing okay. The typical advice for nonprofits is to keep between 1 to 2 years of money in reserves in case of any issues or problems. And the last time I checked, we were at like 20 months. And then we also have a separate endowment fund, which is more like a university type of idea of an endowment fund, which is really money that's for keeping Wikipedia safe for the long term. It is true, of course. We could completely stop asking for donations, and we would run out of money in 18 months. We could also stop most of our activities and just keeps the servers running. But people need to understand, we do a lot of work supporting volunteers, recruiting people, talking to the press and all of this kind of thing, accounting, finance, legal, and all that. So I very much defend our fundraising strategy.
And so the question, if you were to start Wikipedia today, would you pursue the nonprofit route?
I think so, yeah. I mean, it's an interesting thing. I used to joke when people would ask me this, when reporters would ask me this, I would joke and say, well, it was either the smartest thing or the dumbest thing I ever did. And then there were a couple of headlines, Jimmy really regrets putting it in a nonprofit, but I'm like, that's not my point. It was a joke, I think Wikipedia is something that I hope will be remembered, in 500 years, people will look back on this time and they will say, ooh, that was a pretty horrible time, and people were really mean to each other at the beginning of the internet, but there was this one group of people, and they were doing something really nice, and they were working together, and they argued a lot, but they tried to do the right thing, and I think that's great. I mean, I think it's really a wonderful thing to be a part of, and so, yeah.
Well, then the perfect way to end. Unfortunately, we're out of time. Thank you. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, thank you.